We're going to start with our first presenter, who has presented quite a few times before, so you're in extremely safe hands with this presenter. Yes, we're ready. Are we ready, Richard?
We're ready.
Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge warm welcome for Emma Sutton.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
17 is a magical age, where childhood is just ending and adulthood is beginning. When I was 17, I was thinking about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, my career, where I should go to study. And there are big choices to be made. Do you go and jetpack around the world? Do you get a job? Do you get an apprenticeship? What are you going to do with your life? And it's a time of opportunity. But 100 years ago, next year, 17-year-olds had very different decisions to make. And this is a story about one of those. And he was my grandfather's cousin. So let me introduce you to Ernest Steele. 100 years ago this year, he'd finished school at 16, been well educated, and he'd joined his father's business. He was doing rather well. As the eldest of 4 children, he was going to take over the business. And they made cardboard boxes. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking brown boxes that you pack when you go on holiday, but no. They made fancy boxes. Glove boxes, perfume boxes, beautiful fabric-covered boxes sold in the likes of Harrods. The business was expanding and taking on more and more people. Things were going really well. They lived in this house in Leytonstone in London, the biggest house on the street, a leafy suburb, just within train distance so they could get to the factory. They even had a servant to help out in the house. As a young man, everything was going forwards. But in August 1914, Britain needed soldiers. The first call came. This was one of the original posters when they asked for volunteers for the First World War. Ernest had a little bit of experience. He'd been in a local brigade. But I can't imagine what the conversation was like at home. For a start, his mother was German. She was naturalised British, but his parents sat on both sides of this divide. I don't know what made him sign up, what convinced him, but within 2 months of that first call, he was part of the Queen's Westminster Rifles that became one of the London Regiment. Only 17 years old. This is him in his uniform. It was fine, because he joined a territorial unit, so he would be based at home. Or so he thought. Within a few months, he was in France, on the Western Front. Whatever he thought war would be like, I'm pretty sure it wasn't the reality that he experienced. Very quickly he saw people killed and wounded. But he was given a chance, another chance to make this choice. He was only 18 years old, and the sergeant in his company said that anyone under the age of 19 could go home. It says in his diary that after long discussion, we decided to stay. He prospered in the war. He was a good soldier. He gained a commission. He was promoted. And this is him as a lieutenant in the machine gun corps. In September 1918, he found himself in this place, Épinay in France. This building that you see is one of the only things left standing by the end of the war, and it was a watchtower. In September, they were about to make an assault on the impregnable German Hindenburg line. And this is a line. And you can see the arrow points to Épinay, this tiny village. The night before the push forward, he wrote a letter home. He told his parents that he was optimistic he'd be home within the year, that he couldn't wait to come home and tell them about his adventures to some extent. He told them that he couldn't tell them how much he owed them, and he waited for a chance to repay that, at least in part. Thanks to the BBC, I was privileged to be part of filming this year, and I got to lay that poppy at the point where he was killed. The next morning, after writing that letter home, he was shot by a sniper. If you watch the programme, you'll find out how I was given this. This is a button from the uniform he was wearing when he died, nearly 100 years ago. I went to see his grave. It was one of hundreds of graves in one of the cemeteries, and there's hundreds of cemeteries, and there were some words on those graves that really struck me, carved deep into the stone. It turns out they came from Robert Burns, but they were in his handwriting, in his possessions his father found when they sent them home. And they are these words, that man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands mourn. It is fitting that it's Ernest's words that are the last ones today.
Emma Sutton, ladies and gentlemen.